I want to talk about the money. All right. I know that this is probably the most unpopular part of the show because people don't like to talk about money. I disagree. I think that people love to talk about money. And let me add some value into your life. So, non-compete clauses for work. I want to play this video because it popped up on my timeline. So this is something that I personally selected for you guys. And I want to have this conversation. So make sure you hit a like for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's continue to get into it.
Remember the last time you started a new job? Between the offer letter, the onboarding documents, and the employee handbook, did you really comb through the fine print? Could something have been missed amid the excitement about the new gig? Well, for millions of American workers, one hastily signed document can make or break future career moves. It's called a non-compete clause. A non-compete is a binding agreement that follows a worker after they leave their job by preventing that person from seeking new employment or starting a business within the same field. And according to the Federal Trade Commission, it's costing American workers big time, about $300 billion each year.
The FTC could have some serious ripples across corporate America. The agency proposing a new ban of so-called non-compete clauses.
That rule would increase wages across the board for American workers by nearly $300 billion per year and expand career opportunities for about 30 million Americans.
A lot of questions about what could happen and also the kind of legal challenges that may come.
The Chamber of Commerce told us today that the FTC's rulemaking is unlawful, and they told me today it's already contemplating legal action against it.
Why do you think that companies put in non-compete agreements? Non-compete clauses inside of your contract. First, let's address one of the monkeys, the gorillas, the issues in the room. All right, most people don't even read what it is that they're signing before they actually sign on a dotted line, and this is usually what happens. They grab something, right, and they say, "All right, cool." So, you just think about it. Think about it. You just so happy to get the job. You just so happy to be getting the bag. You're not paying attention to what you're signing. And so it's easy for the HR person because the HR person is the person that goes through the formalities. And they say, okay, well, this just says this and this and this and that. And then you be like, you signing it. And this just said, and you signing it. And this just says, listen, just in case you ever leave here, it's a non-compete agreement, or you can't get a second job doing the same thing with a competitor and all of this, and you just sign it, you sign it, and sign it. And then you come into the Patreon, right? You come into the Patreon, and I dropped the video that I dropped 2 weeks on y'all, right? But then I give you the caveats. Now, a lot of y'all that actually watched that video, the life hack that I put out for y'all, it's about 10, 12 minutes long. So if you have not watched it, it's not a webinar, it's just a life hack video where I make basically between an additional $500,000 and $1 million a year. And I gave you the sauce, I give you the skinny, I give you the life hack, and I add a few caveats in there in order to give y'all the insight and information on how it is that you can continue to level up and get that bag. But some of you can't do it because of the paperwork that you sign. And the problem for a lot of you guys is that y'all don't read through whatever it is that they're putting in front of you, because I don't feel sorry for y'all. See, listen, I don't believe that Congress or whoever it is, the FTC or whatever, should be sitting here and lobbying against non-compete agreements. I don't. Before we even get into this video, I don't believe that they should actually put this law in at all, because they should not protect you from something that you're voluntarily signing. You can actually choose not to sign it. You can go with a job that doesn't have a non-compete agreement or clause within that contract that you sign. This is voluntarily ignorant. You're voluntarily putting yourself under the thumb or being ignorant about what it is that you're signing because you're choosing not to sign. You can actually negotiate your contract. Now, some of you that's just getting in the door, I wouldn't actually say that. I wouldn't advise that, because you just need to get to the bag. But after you continue to learn and after you continue to go, somebody said, who reads all of the fine print? I do. I read all of the fine print. Not only do I read the fine print, I go over it with my lawyer. You may not read the fine print of your cell phone, but as far as the job and the way in which they're going to compensate you, because I'm actually paying attention to the long-term strategy of how I'm going to leverage this position in order to get to the next one, or then to start a new business, or to add things to my resume, and then I can give them the light pack that I did inside of the Patreon with receipts. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. If you're paying attention to the long-term opportunities, because this is just a pit stop. It's similar to what it is that I tell y'all, right? When I tell y'all, listen, it's the difference between doing a boot camp and getting a degree. The boot camp is to get you in the door for a lot of y'all. The degree is based off of how it is that you see your life long term, because there's certain doors that you can't get in because the barrier entry is now too high. It's too high. Even when they give you, listen, when they give you a bonus, when they do the new bonus offers, because some of y'all have not negotiated bonuses or equity inside of your compensation package, right? When you look at your total compensation package, it's not based off of what your salary is. It's not based off of what your salary is. Sometimes they'll give you an impromptu bonus in order to keep you on board because they're going through a transition or acquisition with the company, or your company is merging. Then they say, listen, we merging and we want to keep you on board and we want to give you this incentive and this bonus. And so if you stay to this date, some of y'all remember, right? Some of y'all remember, like over the last year or two, I had been agonizing. I'm like, man, I don't want to stay because of this and that. But if I meet this expectation or I stay till this date, then when this bonus matures or whatever, it's because I'm reading through the fine print to better understand when certain things are going to hit, or what the criteria is, or whatever the performance metrics that I need to meet in order to hit that number. When you're in corporate America and you get to a certain level, you don't work for the base salary. You work for the bonuses. You don't work for the base salary. You don't work for whatever it is that you're going to be taking home on a monthly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. You work for the bonuses, the performance bonuses, the tenured bonuses, right? You work for the things that's actually going to get you those big checks. And there's specific things in there that you have to read through, or else they can take that away from you, or they can choose not to give you that bonus or give you that bag or give you that money. Or I've seen people miss out on huge sums of money because they didn't read specific things that were in that contract that they signed. They just so happy to see the number and they sign it. And I've seen people miss out on huge bags because they didn't hit a metric or they didn't hit this particular thing, and it didn't trigger that compensation. It didn't trigger that part of it. And the only reason that they know it is because they then have conversations with you and they compare and contrast. So let's continue.
Here's why the FTC is going to war against non-compete clauses.
Mika G, you're absolutely correct.
The FTC's current proposal is the most aggressive step that any...
Who is this man with no mustache? No beard, no mustache. I'm cool with the no beard. I can roll with that. Where your stash at, man? All right, let me stay focused.
actor within the federal landscape has taken towards addressing the problem of non-compete abuse.
A non-compete is a contractual clause between a worker and an employer that limits the worker's ability to accept or seek other employment or to start their own business for a certain period of time or within a geographical location after the employment ends.
And the reason that they do that is because they don't want you, let's just be 100%, right? Because they're giving you the lawyer terms, they're giving you the technical terms. They're saying, listen, a non-compete agreement is that you won't start a company or you won't start a business or you won't work for a competitive within a specific time frame after leaving this job. This is what they're saying. The long story short is they saying, we don't want you taking what it is that you learn here, getting the bag over there and then using it against us. We don't want to pay you to learn what it is that you've learned or to take secrets or to take information and then implement it over there at our competitor and then use it against us. That is what a non-compete agreement. They put that in there so that you don't destroy their business as a result of being an employee at their company. It is needed. It is necessary, right? You can't just say, okay, well, listen, I'm about to take the information that we got because we was developing AI software over here, and I'm going to take it and I'm going over there. And now I'm going to your competitor. They put that in there for a reason. And so most people are only looking at it, and this is why legislative branches are it's so easy for them to be able to pass things through, because the majority of the people that's looking at it, or the majority of the people that's having a conversation about it, are not familiar with it, or they've never been on the receiving end of that L, right? It's a lot of people that's going to lobby for it, but it protects the company. It protects you against whatever it is. If I employ you, right? And you work for me, and I give you all of this game information, tools, and I teach you, and you've been working for me, and then you just run over to my competitor and you use all of the things that I've had against me. Where does that leave me?
On-the-job training can be a costly and timely part of hiring a new employee.
Reading Super Chat shortly.
Non-competes are viewed by some as a tool to protect the investment a company makes towards upskilling their workers.
An employee agrees not to compete against the company in any of its different lines of business for 2 years within the state of Florida. But more often than that, you see increasingly non-competes that are national in scope and even worldwide in scope.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 2 years will not compete against anything we do anywhere in the world.
And the reason that they do that is because now it has become a global company. I'll give you another example, right? The United States, and you guys need to start becoming more familiar with what's going on internationally. You see a war. We always say the war against China, and we always say currency and all of this other type of stuff, right? But it's much deeper than that. 2 years ago, I gave you guys a tip for a company that I'm still invested in. So I have to be 100% transparent, and I'm not a financial advisor, but a company that I'm 100% invested in. The name of the company is called ASML. ASML is the company that makes the machines that develops or builds the semiconductor chips and the plants. Okay, so when you see these large semiconductor chips or chip companies, and they're building these companies down in Texas or whatever, so on and so forth, what happens is ASML is the only company in the world. It's the only company in the world that has the technical capabilities, the business acumen, and the investment knowledge as far as developing these machines that then build these semiconductor chips, these super fast, continuously growing semiconductor chips that then live in every single thing that you do. They live in your computers, they live in your cell phones, they live in your cars, they live in the weapons, even the weapons that the army and these different places use against other countries and so on and so forth, right? Now, here's the key. The United States is actually putting restrictions on the countries that ASML are able to ship these machines to. Okay? Now, why are they doing that? Because China is in an arms race with the United States and other people. Other countries are in an arms race with the United States for technology that continues to be deployed because they want to control the semiconductor chip. They want to control the semiconductor chip, especially over in Taiwan. You got to figure out how it is that they're tying in Taiwan. They want to control the growth of the semiconductor chip industry, and China is behind the United States and the technology and the chip technology that allows for them to continue to compete with the United States on so many different fronts. And so the war against China is more than just the American dollar, is more than their alliance with Russia. It's more about the technologies, the monies. And this is why I say that, listen, even if you're talking about politics, if you're talking about jobs, if you're talking about women, it all comes back down to the money. It all comes back down to the money. I did a video inside of the Patreon of the 8 things that I look for when I'm looking to invest in a company. It's not just what their stock price is. It's not just what their dividend payment, or if they're a company that does dividend payments at all. It's a complete scope and picture of how that company is incentivized or plays into what it is that we're looking to invest in from a business perspective, right? If this is the only company in the world that then makes the chips or makes the machines that make the chips that these large companies are investing these plants in. And I believe, I forgot what it was like between $100,000 or $250,000 per machine that they are using in order to build these chips that they then ship over, right? The logistics attached to it in which they get them over into these particular plants also factor into it, right? Look it up, ASML. Now here's the caveat, right? Now, how does this tie into non-compete agreements? Okay. One of the people that are on the most wanted list from the United States is a person that used to work for ASML that came in as a mole, right, to steal technology, allegedly, steal technology, inside information that then defected and is being protected over and went to work at a Chinese company or build a new company over in China that they can hopefully use and leverage the information to then continue to compete against the United States and all of these other countries as far as building the machines that China then needs in order to build the chips that then can compete with the United States of America. So that person now became a direct competitor because they allegedly stole information or technology and then defected over to China when they used to work at ASML. Now I'm tying it back into you, right? Now you can start to see it. Now it's more than just money. It's a national security issue. It's a national. Now, these are the types of conversations that you're not going to hear because you're not paying attention to the money. You only looking at it on the surface level. You looking at, oh man, a bank collapse, whatever, so on and so forth. You're not understanding why a war with China on so many different fronts is taking place. Right? You're not understanding how non-compete agreements or how they specifically have to pay attention to or why non-compete agreements specifically are worldwide, right? It's not just based off of this state. It's not just based off of this country. It's a global economy now. It's literally a global economy now. All right. So let me continue with the video.
Critics say that non-compete contracts stifle career mobility by squashing a person's power to seek out comparable employment that offers higher wages.
Even if a worker is in a state where non-competes are prohibited or where they're narrowly construed, the workers may not know that, right? So the employers often exploit the gap in knowledge.
Companies profit from it because they're able to, one, limit employee mobility, okay? So when you limit employee mobility, you are able to eliminate competition for labor. And when you eliminate competition for labor, you're able to suppress wages.
Sometimes.
And that's not true. And this is how, and you got to also consider the source. He's a lawyer. And so he's always going to advocate for whoever it is that he thinks that his clients are, right? The truth is that they're protecting themselves. And that's why they compensate you so good or so well. And whatever industry that you're in, they're willing to pay for your expertise, but they don't want it to then come back and bite them. So it's not that they're stifling or suppressing wages, is that they're protecting themselves against the competition. And it's two different ways in which you can look at it. It's two different ways that you can look. Are you going to look at it from the business owner's perspective or are you going to look at it from the worker's perspective? Are you going to look at it from the business owner's perspective or are you going to look at it from the worker's perspective? Most people are unable to look at it from a business perspective, which prevents them from being able to make an informed decision because they only see it one way. They only able to think like a worker because all they've ever known is trying to get a job. They've never had to employ somebody else. It's the truth.
Times employers are actually imposing these on workers even after they've agreed to a job. They can be coercive, they can be exploitative, and that's where you also see wages depressed.
Historically, non-compete agreements were used to keep executive-level employees from working for competitors and bringing trade secrets with them. Now, non-compete clauses have trickled down to rank and
bringing trade secrets with them.
File positions in nearly every industry in America. It's estimated that 18% of U.S. workers are bound by non-compete contracts.
Which is a small amount.
Non-compete clauses today govern around 1 in 5 U.S. workers. These clauses may have started in the boardroom, but today what we see is that they've proliferated across sectors and across income levels.
And so here's the caveat, right? And this is the part that they're not telling you. Because it's easy to pitch this and say, well, 1 in 5 people are affected by non-compete agreements or these clauses that are in the contracts. And this only used to be for executives and boardroom members and all of this other type of stuff, right? It only used to be, hey, you can't leave Google and then go over to Apple and all of this other type of stuff as an executive and doing it. But the reality is that the majority of the jobs that's being created and developed inside of the United States are more technical. They're more technical. So, for example, if you're an engineer and you're not in the C-suite, and the majority of the people that's being hired, for example, at Ford Motor Company, are being hired from a software engineering perspective, then that means that they then have to, right? So for example, Ford has the mobility unit. The mobility unit is the unit that actually is developing artificial intelligence and smart driving technology to allow, in the future, hopefully we have smart cities and the cars can drive themselves. If they leave that company and then they go over to Waze or they go over to Tesla, right? That's more of a technical worker. So the majority of the jobs that's being created are information technology jobs, or it can be a job that has a requirement that prevents you from then taking that information over to the competitor and then using it against them. So it's not just on the surface what they're presenting for it to be, right? It's not just what they're presenting for it to be. There's so many nuances and its context into the conversation that then gives you additional insight and information as to why it is that these jobs are making or using this information in order to make sure that you're not using it at a competitor. And it's not that they're suppressing wages. They're preventing themselves from being hurt as a result of it. All right.